Welcome to Ralph Reads, brought to you by TURN, the United Ronin Networks. My name is Ralph Anthony Garcia, also known as R4. The legal, the loyal, the regal, the royal, Ronin Ralph, your master of ceremonies. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tune in to TURN, the United Ronin Networks. Join the channel for exclusive, members-only content starting at 99 cents per month. Yes, y'all. Come one, come all to TURN, the United Ronin Networks. We are Ronin. Today on Ralph Reads, we try to make sense of what's transpired in Kenyatta's escape, written by Al C. Clarke, better known as Donald Goines. Safety? Maybe. In this case, only if you're lucky. Because this mess is as big as it gets, I'd suggest you stay home, listen on your PC and phone. Let the reading commence. Chapter 5. As evening approached, Dickie and his small group were making their fantastic getaway. Dickie and Victor were the only two men remaining, while Peggy and Irene were the only women to escape the massacre. Out of over 40 people, these were the only ones left. It had been almost a total wipeout. It was on everybody's mind. Irene, sitting in the back seat next to Victor, stared out of the window, fear riding her every thought.
You think we gonna make it?
She asked, her voice shaking with fear. Don't even worry about it, Dickie replied. The pigs are looking for some in the woods riding horses. They ain't even set up roadblocks yet. By the time they get around to it, we gonna be so far away they won't know us from any other black people.
That's right,
Peggy said.
They don't know what we look like, so we ain't got no problem. Once we get clear out of this area, we shouldn't have anything to worry about.
Hey, Victor yelled from the back seat. She's got a point there. If we didn't have these guns in the car and they stopped us, we could play from under it. Ain't no way they could put us at that farmhouse. Dickie drove on in silence, thinking about what Victor had just said. As he neared the highway, he pulled over. Vic, take them rifles and pistols and put them over there in the bushes. Be sure to wipe off whatever prints might be on them. We're gonna play it like you said, so if we get stopped, we're just a square couple out here having a fucking ride for the day, dig it? Yeah, baby, if everybody remembers it that way, we ain't got no problems. No problems at all, Vic said. The tension in the car was high. Everybody could feel their nerves jumping. It had been more than close. Each and every one of them were lucky to still be alive. And they all knew it.
What?
Peggy said.
Did you dig them motherfucking tanks? I ain't never seen anything like it before. Them motherfucking pigs killed Pete and the rest of them like dogs. They ain't even stand a chance.
The four people in the car fell silent while Victor took his time and wiped the guns clean of any prints that might have been on the guns they had used. When he got out of the car, Dickie watched in the car mirror until Victor returned from hiding the guns. I placed them well back in the weeds, man, Victor stated as he climbed back in the car. He was breathing hard, as though he had just finished a long-distance race. With a little luck, won't nobody find them for a few days or weeks. That will be just fine for us, Dickie said. But regardless of what happens now, I don't know a fucking thing about them. I ain't seen no rifles, if you know what I mean. Everybody in the car laughed. It was a little relief from the pressure they all had been under. Now they could relax and breathe easier. Even if they were stopped, there was no evidence against them. It was doubtful if any police could really identify any of them as the blacks who had been at the farm. As far as Dickie was concerned, he knew now that he had a good chance of getting away. Since he had never been arrested with any of the other members, he stood a good chance of not being discovered. Even as he thought about it, he had to shake off the jitters. Whoever was caught had big troubles on their hands because the pigs would toss the book at them. Murder in the first degree would be the charge. He had no doubt about that. Too many police had been killed. He had seen 4 cops go down that he knew of.
Yeah, Mama, you said a mouthful,
Vic said.
Them f***ing tanks sent shivers down my damn spine. Did you see what that f***ing flamethrower did to the cabin Jim and Lacey were in?
It went like that as Dickie drove onto the highway. They rehashed the events of the afternoon. It was as though they couldn't talk about anything else. It was the only thing on any of their minds. Irene began to cry softly.
Why don't you turn on the radio or something, Dickie? I've had enough reminders of what happened. I wish y'all would find something else to talk about. What happened was too gruesome for us to keep kicking it around,
she stated as tears began to roll down her lovely brown cheeks. Irene was a medium-sized woman, well-shaped, with a teasingly tanned complexion. She could pass for a schoolteacher any day of the week if she so wished. Whenever she smiled, she revealed well-kept teeth that were as white as freshly fallen snow, while her hair was an auburn brown that came out of the neighborhood drugstore. At her suggestion, Dickie turned on the radio. As soon as a popular hit blues number went off, the news came on. Everybody in the car became quiet as the commentator began to talk about the hijacking of an airplane by a group of militant blacks. The newsman continued, giving descriptions of the black men and women who had commandeered the plane.
Son of a...
Victor cursed. The slim black man looked as though he was about to have a stroke as he continued to listen.
Son of a...
He said over and over and over again.
It just couldn't be.
The very thought was almost too much for him. It couldn't be anybody else but them, Dickie said firmly. Just who in the else could it be? Shit. From the descriptions, it has to be Kenyatta. It couldn't be that many tall, black, bald-headed men in the city with enough nerve to take over a motherfucking airplane.
If it is them,
Peggy began.
It seems as if they could have wired us up on it. Shit. Dickie, from where I sit, it looks as if we were played for damn fools. While we hold the pigs off, they make their news-shattering escape. Shit. It looks as if we were used for fools and tools, tying the pigs up with an old-fashioned shootout while the king and his personal hand-picked friends made their getaway.
"Oh, baby," Dickie said quietly, as his mind raced wildly. "Why don't you think positive instead of coming up with that abstract shit? If it was the big man Kenyatta, it still don't mean he used us. I'll bet he didn't know anything about the pigs getting ready to hit the farm. If he had, honey, don't think for a minute he wouldn't have taken the time to pull our coats about it."
Yeah, girl,
Vic said, adding his little bit.
Don't even imagine that Kenyatta would have left all of us uptight. If he had only known about it, he would have pulled out coats so that we could have been ready for them pigs. It's our own fault. We should have been ready.
Victor pulled out his cigarettes and crumpled the pack after cursing when he found it empty.
After all the training we've been put through,
Victor continued,
we should have been more damn prepared than we were. As it was, we went into action too late. The first pigs that showed up should have been wiped completely out. If we had took care like we were trained to, the first 2 or 3 carloads shouldn't even have had the time to call their f***ing partners with those damn tanks.
Quiet!
Irene ordered loudly as the speaker on the radio came back with some more news. The announcer's voice filled the car as Dickie raised the volume on the car radio.
From our latest reports, it is believed that the hijackers of the Boeing 707 were members of a highly organized gang of militant blacks who had a deadly shootout at a farmhouse located in the backwoods of Middleton Township. After the smoke had cleared, there were 7 policemen dead, while 9 others were rushed to the nearest hospital because of wounds received in the shootout. An accurate count of the black people killed was impossible because of the use of highly powerful flamethrowers, which left no remains.
As the foursome in the car listened, the newscast continued.
While there was no accurate account, there were over 25 blacks believed to be killed.
Damn! Damn! Damn!
Victor murmured over and over again. The slim, brown-skinned man was deeply hurt by the incident. There were tears of frustration rolling down his cheeks as he fell silent.
At the latest report,
The announcer continued in a louder voice, seemingly becoming enraged by the news he was reading.
even after such a large death count of the militant blacks, the police are searching the immediate area for at least 4 or 5 of the blacks that got away during the violent shootout. The police are warning everybody not to approach these people as they might be armed and highly dangerous. Some farmers in the area have armed themselves in hopes of collecting a reward off the arrest of these mad dogs. But the warning from the police is that these people are highly dangerous and to avoid them at all costs. If you should, by chance, see some blacks hitchhiking, do not, and I restate, do not pick them up. Your life will be worthless if you should, because they think nothing of killing. And now that they are on the run, they are even more dangerous.
There was a brief interruption while the announcer spoke of some product, but in seconds he was back speaking on the shootout.
There is no reward. I repeat, there is no reward on these people, so don't try and be heroes. If by chance you see them, notify your nearest policeman.
He hesitated for a moment, then added,
Now don't forget, over 7 police officers had died because of these people, so I can't even find the words to express to you how dangerous these mad dogs are.
"Mad dogs my ass," Dickie swore. He ain't say shit about the use of the motherfucking tanks, of killing black men and women like fucking dogs. Nah, the whitey ain't gonna come out with the real. I just wish I could get him in front of my gun sight. Then I'd sure enough let him know just how fucking mad we are. There was a general agreement from the other people in the car. All of them would have loved a crack at the big mouth announcer.
I wonder about that shit that happened on the airplane, if it was Kenyatta or not.
Peggy stated as she rubbed her chin.
It just doesn't seem possible, but the way they described the people, it sure as hell sounded like our man.
You can say that again.
Victor said. Suddenly, everybody froze as a police car went speeding past. The officers in the car didn't even bother to glance in their direction.
Damn it,
Victor continued.
this kind of ish will give me a damn heart attack.
It won't be long now, Dickie said. As he made a right turn, the freeway was right ahead. Everybody in the car relaxed more. After taking another look in his mirror, Dickie turned onto the ramp that led down onto the freeway. It won't be long now, he said. When we pull up, we'll be in Chicago. These motherfuckers won't have the damnedest idea of which way we went.
Another bulletin came in just now. Captain Dillard, one of the more important officers on the case, has called in and reassured us that the apprehension of the wildly fleeing blacks will come soon. He doesn't give them a chance of escaping the area, which has been sealed off. Every car with black men and women in it is under surveillance. Captain Diller states that a field mouse couldn't get through the net they had thrown up with over 500 men.
Hey, man! Wow!
Irene screamed.
They really ain't holding back, are they?
Dickie laughed. Ish. 500 and 500 motherfucking more ain't enough. We have went through their damn roadblocks now. Even if they stopped us, we're just innocent blacks on our way to Shy to visit friends. Shit, they don't have the slightest idea what the we look like. I pity any blacks out that way who just happen to be joyriding. Their ass is about to get jacked up.
You can say that again,
Victor added as he stared out the window moodily.
I'm gonna make a pig pay for this shit one day. You can bet on that.
That's two of us, Dickie answered as he moved the car smoothly in and out of the evening traffic. Back at the farmhouse, Detective Ryan and his black partner Benson prepared to leave. Benson had had enough of the funny stares his fellow officers were tossing his way. They seemed to think that because he was black, he was sort of responsible for what had happened. He gritted his teeth until his jaw muscles stood out. He glared back at a tall, red-faced detective who kept looking at him. Benson shook his head, then stated, "You had better start this motherfucking wagon up, Ryan, before we end up having another fucking dead officer on our hands." Without replying, Ryan started the car. He had noticed the frustration in his partner's face, and he knew the cause. He wished that he knew how to pacify his friend, but it was out of his hands. The behavior of some stupid wasn't his fault. Yet, in a way, he did feel responsible.
Come on, brother,
he began.
It's farcical for me to pretend that I didn't see some of them stupid suckers rolling their fucking eyes at you, Ben. But man, don't let it pull you down.
Benson let out a loud laugh that was completely against his nature. Yeah, I dig where you're coming from, but it's hard to just ignore that kind of ish when I just finished putting my motherfucking life on the line. Those same bastards who are looking so fucking disturbed are the same ones who are 500 feet in the rear, safely behind somebody's goddamn motherfucking car.
What the
Ryan replied.
Those guys aren't nothing but poo butts, because if they weren't, they know who the you were on sight.
Big deal, Benson said, then crossed his legs and fell silent. The mood he was in was a dangerous one, yet he didn't want to take his anger out on his white partner. The sight of so many black bodies had done something to him. At first, he had been sick to his stomach, but after a while, he had gotten over that part of it. Death was a part of his life. He came in contact with it more than the average person, so he was damn near immune to it. Maybe it was the sight of the attractive black women laid out on the grass. Whatever, he didn't like the taste it had left in his mouth. Ryan knew his partner well, and when he saw him fall silent, he let the silence hang. Let Benson brood for a while, he'd get over it. He had in the past, so Ryan had no reason to doubt that the man wouldn't this time. The two men remained silent until they were almost back to the station. Benson didn't speak until Ryan pulled up off the freeway. Sweet Lord of mercy, what in the has a black person got to do to prove to some of these assholes that all black people aren't like the ones we had the shootout with? I personally killed at least 2 of the black kids at that farmhouse, but it wasn't even enough. Nah. No. Hell no. Just because I'm of the black race, I'm still guilty as hell of what those misguided fools did. Ryan listened, but there was nothing he could say to his partner. Benson will have to get it out of his system his own way. He has seen his partner bitter before, but never to the extent that he was now. Benson seemed to be spurred on savagely by something inside him. Whatever it was, it wouldn't give the man any rest.
Them f***ing
Benson almost screamed.
How the f*** can they hold the whole damn race of people guilty for what a few f***ing nuts did? If it had been a whole bunch of white people at the farmhouse, it would be different. So damn different that I seriously doubt that they would have called in the motherfucking army. No text. No damn way, Ryan. I don't give a how fucking hard them fucking whites would have fucking fought. Do you really think they would have resorted to them fucking frame doors? Hell no!
It was as though he was talking to himself. Ignoring the man sitting in the car beside him, he continued in a loud, angry voice.
Never! Not in a million motherfucking years! They burned those poor, misguided niggas up like they were fucking insects in the fucking way!
The tone of voice Benson used revealed the hurt that was so evident deep inside him. He couldn't hide it if his life depended on it. His words rang in Ryan's ears, causing him to feel self-conscious. He knew in his heart that the black man had a point, but how could he explain something that was out of his hands? This was one of the reasons why it had been so hard to work with a moody black detective. At times, Benson made Ryan ashamed of being white.
What can I say?
Ryan asked, bewildered.
We both know what the deal is, so what the f*** am I supposed to say about it? I'm sorry? Ish. If I said that, that would be a lie. Those people killed 7 policemen. I'm not sorry for their death. Maybe I regret the way they had to be taken out, but I'm damn sure not sorry about it.
Ryan hesitated for a minute, then continued.
Hellfire. Didn't anyone put guns in their hands and make them take the stand that they did? Ben, you got to remember something. While you're letting your emotions run away with you, you got to remember that we've been hunting these people for a long time. And all during that time, they've been cutting down one white policeman after another. Not to mention other people that they've got some sort of gripe against. These people have already set themselves up as some sort of judge and jury, thinking that somebody's given them the right to kill people just because they don't like them. Well, I'll tell you something you already know, Ben, and that's that nobody has given them that right. We don't have it, and nobody else does. They chose their own life. They also chose the way they wanted it to end. They could have given themselves up. It didn't have to go as far as it did.
The cold, bitter laughter that came from Benson made shivers run up and down Ryan's spine. For a second, he wondered if his partner was losing his mind. Then Benson began to speak.
They could have given themselves up, you say. Where the f*** were you when those poor bastards came out of the cabin with their hands in the air? Don't f***ing tell me you really missed that part of the show.
Ryan couldn't look his friend and partner in the eye. He had also witnessed the cold-blooded killing of the few blacks who had tried to surrender. But again, it was out of his hands. What the hell could he say or do about it?
Okay, Ben, I saw the gun-happy bastards shoot them down. But now, where do we go from here? What do you want from me? Should I file a report about it and start some paperwork that will get lost in some place along the line? But won't the big wheels be happy about it? You know damn well I'll be signing my death warrant, or rather, ending my career as a police officer, because the first time I make a mistake, they will hang my ass for bringing up this kind of ish.
Benson sighed deeply. Nah, man. I don't want you to put your neck out. What fucking good would that do? The people are dead now, so what the fuck? If I filed a damn complaint, they would just say I'm a fucking silly against with a chip on my shoulder. On the other hand, if you filed a complaint, I know they'd fuck around and split us up first, then end up by fucking over you for pulling the covers off their ass. No, Ryan, don't pay any attention to me, man. I'm just trying to get it out of my motherfucking system. It hit me hard tonight for some damn reason. I don't know why, and I wish the hell I could quit thinking about it. There's nothing I could do about it anyway. By the time Ryan drove into the police garage, Benson had managed to get himself under control. He kept telling himself that he would just have to understand them. Understand why some whites just loved killing blacks. It was just that simple. Once he understood that, he might be able to cope with the problem. The two men took the stairways upstairs to the small office.
Damn,
Ryan swore as he sat down behind his tiny desk. Benson removed his coat, revealing the long shoulder holster where his .38 police special rested snugly. He walked over to the filing cabinet where they kept files on various criminals and informers that they used on different occasions. Without inquiring about it, Benson fixed 2 cups of coffee and carried the one he had fixed for Ryan over to the desk and set it in front of the man. They sipped their coffee in silence, each man deep in his own private thoughts.
You know, Ben,
Ryan began.
this shit ain't about over.
He waited, and when Benson didn't reply, he continued.
The man that we really wanted wasn't even there. So we're going to have to go through this same shit again someday. And you can bet your ass on it.
Finally, Benson nodded his head in agreement. That's for sure, he answered slowly. If his damn followers wouldn't give up, you could damn well believe, Ryan, that whenever we catch up with Kenyatta, he won't take the easy way out. No, that bastard will hold court in the streets, Benson stated, taking a sip from his cup. But that will be one black son of a bitch I'll be glad to see laying out on his back. Suddenly, there was a soft knock on their door. Ryan called out, and a young white policewoman came through the door. She stopped right at the entrance and delivered her message.
The captain would like to see both of you in his office as soon as possible,
She said, then backed out of the room.
I knew it.
Ryan said as he picked up his cup and blew in it before tipping it up and draining all of the contents. He set the empty cup down with a bang.
You make coffee like my dog shit. It stinks.
Benson laughed as he set his cup down. Well, in a second, you won't have to worry about it. Or rather, you might be wishing it had been poison.
It can't be that bad. In fact, I can't think of any reason for him to start chewing our asses out. Maybe he wants to pat us on the back for a good job well done. Hell, if it hadn't been for us, we wouldn't have busted up the farmhouse.
Yeah, we should get a medal of some kind for our work there. It ain't every day that our fellow officers get a chance to shoot frauds. Ryan stopped at the door and stared at his partner.
You had better shake that mood before we get in his office, Ben. I hate to see you taking this shit so hard, man. I think we were fortunate myself. Just stop and think. Every cop that has been ambushed in the past has been revenged today. There's no doubt in my mind about it. Those crazy bastards that got their shit blown out for them today got what they had coming, and there's no two ways about it. For the past 6 months, the poor bastards driving around on their f***ing beat have been scared as hell to answer half the calls they get. And why? Because Kenyatta's damn gang have been ambushing them. So don't feel sorry for them, Ben. Just be glad we got to most of them before they killed some more of us.
Benson had to agree with what his partner just said. He fell silent and led the way to Captain Davis's office. They knocked softly and walked in as the captain's loud voice came roaring at them through the door. The stout, graying officer stared at his two best detectives over his horn-rimmed glasses. The captain felt a touch of pride. These were the best detectives in homicide, but he wasn't going to let them know it. There were 3 other men sitting around the small office. Captain Davidson quickly introduced all of the men to each other.
These gentlemen are with the federal government, and they would like for me to loan you 2 bums out to them,
The captain stated, then added,
It seems as if you 2 guys know more about this f***ing madman Kenyatta than anybody else in the country. So we are putting you on the case. Wherever Kenyatta goes, you boys will follow. Right now, they have hijacked an airplane, and from last report, it was going down on the Nevada desert. You 2 will be flying out with special orders to work with whatever law enforcement branch that you need.
The 2 partners glanced at each other in surprise. This was truly something they hadn't expected. Before they could get over their surprise, Captain Davidson spoke up again.
There's a special airplane waiting for you 2 at the airport. I expect you to go home and pack whatever you think you might need and then get out to the airport within the next hour.
He hesitated, then held out his hand.
Good luck to both of you. I just hope like hell you can break this damn case wide open and get it the f*** over with.
When the 2 officers walked back out of their captain's office, they were stunned. But they didn't waste any time. Each man took a different car with a driver to their homes. Within minutes, both men were packed. Benson kissed his wife goodbye and left, not realizing how long it would be before the trail of Kenyatta would end. Chapter 6. Kenyatta counted his people as they came down the ladder. At the start, he had had 5 experienced men. Each man had his own woman, a woman who had been trained in the art of death. Each one had been out on some kind of job that took nerve and a willing trigger finger. At least 2 of the women had killed before, so Kenyatta knew what kind of people he had chosen to take along with him. Now there were only 3 men who were able to withstand hardship. Red, because of his injury, was marked off. He had to be taken care of until he was back on his feet.
Everybody is ready, honey.
Betty called out. Her voice carried across the now windy desert. Kenyatta could feel the change in the weather. As he started to walk toward the motorcycle that he would be riding, he thanked his lucky stars that none of the remaining women were hurt. Anne was dead, but since her man had been killed, it was best that she had also gotten hit instead of one of the other women. They were still coupled up, and from the way he looked at it, that was just fine. Each man had the woman of his choice, so there was no reason why there should be any problems brought about over women. Kenyatta glanced around at the couples on the bikes. There were 6 bikes, so that came out right. Yet they still had a problem. With Red hurt, he wondered if Red's woman, Arlene, will be able to handle him on the motorcycle.
Arlene,
Kenyatta called out.
have you much experience bike riding?
The slim, brown-skinned woman shook her head.
Not much, Ken.
she replied.
I've only rode by myself a couple of times. You remember when that brother, what's his name, came out to the farm with the bike he had bought and stayed a few days? Well, I got a chance to ride one by myself without having to ride behind some man.
Kenyatta laughed at her remark while his busy mind worked over the problem. He stared at the two white girls who were now on a bike together. The black-haired one was sitting on the driver's seat.
You redhead!
He yelled out at the red-headed woman who had volunteered, quote-unquote, his information.
Are you a pretty good bike rider?
The woman hesitated for a minute.
Well, I've been riding motorcycles for over 5 years now.
She answered slowly.
That ain't what the man asked you.
Betty said, revealing the hatred she held for the white woman. Kenyatta took a sharp look at his woman. She wasn't really herself, or so it seemed to him. He decided he would watch Betty kind of closely while the white women were their prisoners. Even though he didn't have any lost love for the two white women, he had given the redhead his promise that nothing would happen to her if she kept her head and didn't try anything smart.
Well,
The red-headed woman began.
Joan here is a tyro at bike riding.
She stated, speaking of the black-haired girl. Resorting to the snap judgments he was used to making, Kenyatta made his mind up at once. Okay, we'll do it this way then, Arlene. You go over and get behind that black-haired girl. Redhead, you get off that bike you're on and climb aboard the one with my hurt friend. I'm holding you responsible for him, so I don't want to see him topple off, you dig?
I understand.
The white woman answered. Then, fighting down her fear, added,
But your friend is hurt, and I'm not strong enough to ride with one hand and hold him with the other. He's hurt, and he's going to have to hold on to me some kind of way. There should be some rough ground we're going to ride over, and since it's getting dark, none of us will be able to see too far ahead.
Uh-huh, Kenyatta answered as he sweated over the problem. He got back off the motorcycle where he had climbed on behind Betty. Kenyatta approached the white girl and the wounded man. Redhead, he began. First of all, what the f*** is your name? I better get a better system of reaching either of you.
Oh,
She answered, surprised.
Carol.
As Kenyatta came up to them, she got her first good look at him up close and couldn't help admitting to herself that he was handsome in a dark sort of way. It surprised her because it was one of the first times she had ever looked at a black man in that way. Usually, the black men who came into her company were servants or working as waiters or doormen. She seldom gave a second look to those kinds. They were below her, or so she felt. It was as though God had put them on earth, just to function as undercover slaves. The crowd she ran around with took them for just that. Well-paid slaves, and sometimes not that well-paid. Red, he said, and put his arm on his friend's shoulder. I see you are holding up pretty good. As Kenyatta talked, he noticed the bandages the doctor had put over the wound. The doc had done a good job as far as he could tell. With the drugs in him, Red seemed to be in damn good shape for a man who had been hit in the shoulder. A wound that could turn out any kind of way. Yeah, baby, Red answered. The drugs making him feel much better. I think I could hold my own, man. Uh-huh, Kenyatta replied, seeing the slightly dazed look in his friend's eyes. The man was heavily drugged. There was no doubt about that. Kenyatta examined the motorcycle closely. It was too small for 3 people to ride. For that matter, none of the bikes were quite large enough for that. Look, Red, Kenyatta began. We ain't got that far to go, but I don't want you falling off. Now, let me see. You used to ride a bike yourself, didn't you, Red? The short, light-skinned Negro answered slowly, his words coming out clearly. Still, there was that hint of the man being high. Yeah, Ken, you remember. At one time, I was a bike freak. I was going to join one of them clubs before I got hooked up with you, man. Yeah, I remember. But I'm wondering if you've got the strength to ride while she sits behind you and holds you up. I don't know, Red answered truthfully. I feel cool, for a man just being shot, but I ain't crazy. I know it's the morphine the doc gave me. The wound don't hurt if I don't put no pressure on it. But trying to steer or just hold one of these motherfuckers down might be more than I can manage. You're right, Kenyatta answered quickly, seeing the weakness in his idea at once. He started to get on the bike and ride it himself, but instantly remembered Betty's insane hatred for the white women and decided against it. The red-headed white woman wouldn't stand a chance if he ordered her up behind Betty. Before they reached the ranch, Betty would have found some reason for killing the white girl. That much he was sure of.
Damn, man. What the f*** are we gonna do? Sit out here in the damn desert and freeze our motherfucking asses off?
Eddie B demanded. The words the man used didn't upset Kenyatta, but the tone of voice sure as hell did. Kenyatta turned on Eddie B quickly. His eyes turned to mere slits as his anger soared. What, man? Just what the f*** did you just say? Or rather, who the f*** were you talking to? Kenyatta asked hotly.
Hold on, brother.
Eddie B said quickly as he began to shake.
I didn't mean no harm, Kenyatta. I was just wondering, that's all.
Well, don't wonder no damn more. You comprehend? There was a deadliness about him that no one missed, even though it was now too dark to see his face clearly.
Yeah, Ken. Yeah, man. I dig. I didn't mean no harm, though.
Kenyatta turned his back on the man and wished that it had been Eddie B's little whining ass who had got killed instead of his mellow man Zeke. The hurt of Zeke's killing hadn't set in yet with him, only because he hadn't had time to slow down and think about it. But he knew he would miss the tall black man. He and Zeke had gone through a lot of things together. Well, Kenyatta began, speaking so everybody could hear. We ain't got much choice. Red, wrap your arms around the woman's waist. Let me see how good you can hold on. When Red attempted to use the right arm, a groan of pain escaped from him. Damn! Red cursed. He could only manage to get one arm around the woman. Kenyatta almost pulled his pistol to knock the man out, but just as instantly disregarded the fleeting idea. If Red fell off the bike, he would more than likely knock himself out, or die. Either way, it would benefit the small group of fleeing blacks. The way Red was now, he was causing them more problems than they could afford. Okay, Red, Kenyatta stated, it's going to have to be like this. You're strong as hell, Red. We ain't got no doubts about that. So now is one of the times you're going to have to really prove it to us. I remember the way you used to lift all that iron back at the farm, impressing the women with your muscles. So now's the time to see if all that weightlifting paid off. I want you to get a good hold on her with your good arm. Kenyatta watched closely as Red did as he ordered. That's right, baby boy, Kenyatta continued. Hug that sad out boy. I mean hug it like you had your stuck up into that white
as she was trying to get away from all that black.
Red grinned at his leader's words and smiled when he felt the woman he held tighten up.
I dig what you mean, Ken.
He replied.
Ish, man, she got a soft at that.
Maybe I should have stayed over there.
Arlene called out when she heard Red's words. The fresh air and quiet summer night made words carry a long way on the desert. Inside the airplane, people glanced out the windows trying to figure out what the hell was going on. They could see the lights of the motorcycles in the circle and not going anywhere. The white man Kenyatta had sent up into the plane had already told a group of them about that dude ranch, so they knew the destination of the small group of militant blacks. Some more of the passengers had gone up front and found the dead pilots and the damaged radio. Already some of the passengers were discussing their plight and how and what they could do about it. Back on the ground, Kenyatta had decided it was time to be getting on.
Carol,
He said.
what's your friend's name?
Carol adjusted herself on the seat, trying to help the man behind her make himself feel comfortable.
That's Joan.
She replied.
Fine.
Kenyatta answered, then started back to his own bike. He beckoned for Betty to get off. Then he quickly took the driver's seat. He started the motorcycle with a roar, waited until Betty got behind him, then rode over to where Joan sat on her bike with Arlene behind her.
Joan,
He began. I want you to lead off. Now, girl, I ain't gonna tell you but one time. No tricks. Don't take us the long way either. Just ride like you got God-given sense and everything will be all right. If you come up with some trick and get rid of Arlene, who's behind you, I'll drop my woman off and ride your ass down. Do you understand? He waited a second until the woman nodded her head in understanding, then waved to the others. Suddenly, the night was shattered with the loud sounds of the motorcycles starting up all at once. Inside the airplane, the stranded passengers pressed their faces against the windows, trying to see the departure of the motorcycles. From where they were, they could see the lights of the bikes as they moved into what looked like a ragged single file and moved off across the endless desert. Many of the passengers sighed a sigh of relief when they saw this. They were all happy to see the departure of the murdering blacks.
Jesus Christ,
One of the passengers called out.
I think I'm so happy to see those crazy motherfuckers leave. It's like, I don't know, maybe what a drowning man must feel when he finds himself coming up for help and someone has an arm around his waist.
A few people agreed with him. Another man began to complain. I don't know what the hell you're so happy about. Here we are stuck out here on the desert with 2 dead pilots on our hands. Maybe not enough water to last us another day, and you're happy?
You're damn right I'm happy.
The man replied.
This guy here,
He said, pointing to the man who had been sent aboard by Kenyatta.
tell us there's a ranch a few miles away, so we sure in hell won't die of thirst out here.
The second man laughed coldly. I thought you were just thanking God that you had seen the last of those killers. Now you turn around and say you want to go running over the hill and catch up with them. His brutal laugh killed the dreams of many of the people aboard who had been thinking in the same vein. But the man who had spoken first didn't back off.
You better damn well bet I'm planning on going over that hill. All you have to do is use a little common sense. Those people who had just left are on the run, so you could bet your ass they won't let any grass grow under their f***ing feet. By the time we walk across this desert with some of the older people on this plane in tow, they will have had plenty time to bring death and destruction to the people on the ranch.
The slim white man who was sent aboard spoke up. His face was set in a look of horror.
You don't think they will hurt the people at the ranch, do you?
Most of the passengers stared at the man as if he were a fool. One of the woman passengers said coldly,
Are you sure you possess the sense to lead us to the ranch?
The worried man missed the sarcasm behind the words as he said,
By God, my wife is back at the ranch. Jesus Christ, I've got to get out of here and get back and try to help her.
He started for the door. Two of the nearest male passengers grabbed him and held him forcefully.
You fool, you!
One of them screamed to his face.
Just what in the do you think you could even do if you were there? Just look around you.
He pointed at the bodies that were now lined up in a neat row in the aisles. The other man who held his arm spoke up.
Don't worry, they don't seem to hurt women. If your wife is smart and keeps her head, they won't bother her.
He pointed at the body of a dead man.
If it hadn't been for that silly bastard there, I doubt if any bodies would be down there. He started the damn gunfight, and this is what it led to.
His words brought argument from some of the other passengers who were inclined to put all the blame on the militant blacks. But the man held on firmly to his belief. They continued to argue on into the night while trying to make up their minds when to leave the airplane. None of them wanted to leave too soon and by some odd chance of fate catch up with the black group. Some of the passengers argued that it would be best to wait until morning. Others claimed that by morning it would be too hot for some of the older passengers to walk. The heat would kill them before they got 50 feet. There were over 10 people on board who were in their 70s and 80s, while a few more were nearing the age of retirement. The stewardess checked the water supply and informed them that there was not enough to last more than one day. After much quarreling, it was decided that 15 of the youngest men aboard would go for help. The number was reached as a way to save on some of the water. The young men could go without drinking since it wasn't but a 5-mile walk, while the older people would just sit on the airplane and wait until help came. There was food enough to hold them and soft drinks that would take place of water. The only problem facing them was on the time to depart. None of them wanted to arrive at the ranch too soon. They wanted to give the blacks plenty of time to get there and do whatever they were going to do. With that thought in all their minds, they settled down to wait. After much discussion, they decided that 2 o'clock in the morning would be a good time for them to start walking. By the time they reached the ranch, it would be light enough for them to see, and if they saw the blacks still around, all they would have to do would be turn around and come back toward the plane. Few of them believed the blacks would hurt them once they saw that they didn't intend to give them any trouble. After a little more discussion, they decided to ensure their well-being by taking the only black man on the airplane along. They could use him for a message carrier, since it had been made clear that the blacks wouldn't hurt the other blacks if they would only stay the hell out of the way. The only black man on the plane argued for quite a while that he meant to stay out of their way. He wanted to stay with the plane and wait for help, but after much discussion, he was finally talked into leaving with the other able-bodied men. While the trains rumble by, shaking my building, I extend my thanks to the listeners listening. To Ralph Reeds, I would like, or rather love, to thank you, queens and kings, fellow royalty, for stopping by. If you would like to leave a small donation, please go to www.solo.to/RGMC2407. And again, tell a friend to like, share, comment, join, and subscribe to TURN, the United Ronin Networks. We are Ronin. Fellow royalty, pick up a good book, read a good story, and set your good self free. I appreciate you, and I love you like cooked food. I will see you folks for the next edition of this Donald Goines miniseries on Ralph Reads. Say what you will, I'm not trying to get my blood spilled. Mind your business out there and try not to get killed. And another one done. Peace!